Joe Biden, in his first television interview as president, telling CBS anchor Norah O'Donnell he's concerned about giving Mr. Trump classified information. And it's time now for our Sunday group. GOP strategist Karl Rove, Catherine Lucy, who covers the White House for the Wall Street Journal, and Fox News political analyst Juan Williams. Well, Catherine, I didn't realize that this issue had been percolating around the White House this week. Good for Norah for asking the question. Was this just President Biden expressing an opinion, or is this now policy that President Trump is going to be cut off from getting classified information?
Yes, Chris, that's right. This had been brought up. There have been questions asked about how this was going to work. Typically, former presidents do get access to some amount of classified information and briefings, especially if they're doing some kind of travel or overseas work. Our understanding is, President Biden was expressing a lot of concern here. You heard those words. They are very strong. But the White House is saying that he was expressing his concern and an opinion, and that ultimately he trusts his intelligence team to determine what to do if Trump does seek a briefing. But it really is important to note here just how serious and how unprecedented this is, the fact that the president is raising these concerns about him being a security risk.
Karl, as the one person in this group who has worked with a president and a former president, why do former presidents get intel briefings? How often do they get them? And what do you think of the possibility that this administration might cut off President Trump?
Well, first, it's a courtesy extended from a president to a former president or former presidents, and it's to keep them abreast of world affairs, sometimes to keep them from getting off the reservation in the case perhaps of Jimmy Carter, or because they might be called upon to give advice and counsel to the current president. And so it is a courtesy. It's at the discretion of the president. There's no mandatory requirement, no statute that requires it. My suspicion is that if former President Trump were to ask for something, for a briefing on an issue that concerns, say, for example, foreign travel for him, that they might extend it. But this is entirely at the courtesy, as a courtesy, and entirely at the decision of the sitting administration.
Juan, there was a very interesting exchange in the interview. At one point, Norah O'Donnell asked President Biden, "What's your worst fear about what might happen?" And he said, "I hesitate to speculate out loud." The implication seemed to be that he was worried that if President Trump got classified information, he might just share it with somebody else.
Yeah, I think, Chris, the President Biden, I think, was being polite, respectful. But in plain language, I think what he's saying is that President Trump can't be trusted with classified information. And, let's be honest here. I don't think President Trump could pass the lowest level clearance for getting secure information. This man, is estimated to owe $400 million at the moment. Forbes estimates it at $1 billion. He has lots of business overseas. He owes money to foreign banks. So I think that what you're seeing here is an expression of politeness from President Biden and simply saying that in his judgment, it's not appropriate at this moment. I think you have to keep that in mind because, it's also the case Trump is I think it's fair to say, a bitter, defeated man who, believes in conspiracy theories and the like. But I think the most important thing is that, Biden feels it's important to keep him at a distance because, as Karl was saying, this is not just a courtesy, but oftentimes that you rely on a former president to give you advice about foreign difficulties overseas. And I don't think Biden is going to rely on President Trump in that way.
Yeah, I think a lot of these presidents don't rely on former presidents to give them counsel, including, as you mentioned, Jimmy Carter, Karl. And then let's switch subjects, because there was another notable development in Washington this week, and that was the move by congressional Democrats in the Senate and the House to set the stage for passing COVID relief, this huge package, currently slated at $1.9 trillion on a straight party line vote. Democrats jamming it through Congress, especially the Senate. Here was President Biden this week on that.
I believe the American people are looking right now to their government for help, to do our job, to not let them down. So I'm going to act. I'm going to act fast.
Catherine, you know, it seemed that there was a noticeable change in the president's tone this week from that meeting early in the week in the Oval Office for 2 hours with a number of Republican senators who'd come up with a very different plan to the end of the week when you had the Senate setting the stage for a straight party line vote. Is that where you think Joe Biden is now, full speed ahead? We're going to get this thing through on a straight Democratic vote and forget about bipartisanship.
I think this was a notable moment, Chris. You really did hear Biden say, you know, he was prepared to move forward with or without Republicans, which, given that he has, you know, campaigned and long held himself as someone who can work in a bipartisan way, this is a key moment. That said, I mean, his staff is still saying they would like to talk to Republicans. They want to incorporate Republican ideas if they can. But they are really saying that this is an urgent moment and they don't think that they can wait. They're citing the latest jobs report. And they've also talked about the fact that, you know, the president said this on Friday, that he thinks that in 2009, Democrats didn't go big enough with economic relief. One other thing that I think we're going to see more of from them is that they're really counting on the idea that there is Republican support from voters around the country, you know, even if they're not getting a lot of Republican support on the Hill. And so they've been pitching this plan nationally. They're talking to governors, they're talking to mayors, and they've been really citing polling that shows some level of bipartisan support. And I would expect to hear more from that on them.
Karl, I got just a minute left. The president says, I'd like some Republican buy-in here, but he also says that his job one, his top priority, is to get this money, hundreds of billions of dollars, close to $2 trillion, to Americans as fast as possible. Is he making a mistake moving off bipartisanship? He's only been in office 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, big mistake. The only bipartisanship about this is a criticism of it. The Obama economic czar Larry Summers and Senator Phil Gramm wrote op-eds in the Wall Street Journal criticizing the size of the package and its bad design. Look, this is a rush, and it's an unnecessary rush. For the first time since the passage of the 1974 Budget Act, the Budget Committee has had no hearing on a budget resolution. Instead, the leadership is writing the budget resolution and bringing it to the floor without passing it through a committee. They're cutting corners left and right. We're going to end up with a badly designed bill. They can wish all they want by pointing towards polls showing Republicans support it, but that same thing was around in 2009. Republicans in polling said we like the stimulus, and it blew up in the Democrats' face in 2010.